Welcome to our session on teacher collaboration using the new updated 3 through 5 guidebooks units. Let's take a moment to review the objectives for today's session. As you can see, our focus today for this session is grounded in providing structures for teachers around collaboration using planning and data analysis using the Guidebooks 3 through 5 2022 updated units. The activities that you will participate in today will serve as examples of ways that you can collaborate during lesson planning and data analysis collaboration meetings on your school campuses. Throughout this session, you will need access to a participant guide for your grade level. Please select the link to the grade level that you would like to work on today when they are linked in the chat. Please make sure that you can make a copy. This participant guide will also have several links for you so that you will have access to the documents that we reference throughout this presentation to use at a later time. The next part of our agenda will explore the collaborative planning protocols using ELA Guidebooks 3 through 5 units with a focus on the assessment plan. One update to ELA Guidebooks 3 through 5 2022 is the assessment plan. During collaborative meetings, teachers can utilize this plan to ground their meetings in student work. Review this chart to see how the assessment plan has been updated. For some of you that have been with us before, this may be a quick review. However, it's necessary to have this knowledge to work on our session today. So as you can see, the students will be building knowledge to be able to respond to the culminating task, but they will no longer have a cold read task nor an extension task. Instead, teachers will use the daily lesson look-fors to monitor student understanding. Each section includes a section diagnostic that will help teachers tailor their daily lessons to meet their students' needs in order to be successful in the culminating task. There are many opportunities throughout the assessment plan where teachers can work collaboratively to plan support for all learners and to also analyze data. I'm going to give you a moment to study this graphic. What do you notice is different about the updated assessment approach? Feel free to drop your comments in the chat, or you can unmute and give us some overviews of what you see is different about this updated assessment approach. So Eric says that section diagnostics appear to be new. That's absolutely correct. And we will dig deeper into those throughout our work today. Marcy also says that there are optional activities that are included. That is also correct. And you'll be able to dig a little bit deeper into those as well when you do your work with our study tools that we are going to be using today. So you'll see here that the assessment path for each unit can look different from classroom to classroom, just like when you notice those optional activities. With the built-in optional activities, their teachers are able to choose which optional activities would best benefit their students. Every unit includes lesson look-fors for monitoring student progress, section diagnostics to assess student growth throughout the unit, and at the end, a culminating task to evaluate the overall understanding of the unit. Let's review the updated embedded assessments. We will use the knowledge of these embedded assessments to internalize lessons and analyze data during teacher collaboration meetings. Monitoring student progress is embedded into the daily curriculum lesson look-fors, which are knowledge-based and skill-related. The lessons in each section are designed to prepare students for the section diagnostic by building the content knowledge through reading, writing, and having discussions about complex texts. By monitoring how students are responding to the activities with the lesson look-fors, teachers are able to make informed decisions about which optional activities to include in the lesson and which in the moment supports to use. And these conversations can be had during teacher collaboration meetings. Section diagnostics are included in each section, and they are designed to assess student understanding of the section and to provide insight to teachers about their students' preparedness in relationship to their ability to complete the culminating task. Teachers should collaboratively review student responses and discussions using the section diagnostic checklist and/or exemplars that are included. Optional activities can also be used in the following unit section to help students better access the knowledge needed in the unit to respond effectively to the culminating task. And last, to evaluate the student's understanding of a unit, teachers administer the corresponding culminating task. The unit sections, lessons, and activities all lead the student to an effective culminating task response. Teachers should also use the appropriate culminating task rubric to evaluate student performance and to provide feedback to students during teacher collaboration meetings. So that's just a quick overview of how the updated assessment plan can facilitate those teacher collaboration meetings. And we're going to dig deeper into that later. But before we get there, does anyone have any questions that may need clarified before we move to the next part of our session? I'll monitor the chat if you want to put them there, or you can unmute and ask anything that you may need clarified. All right, we'll move on to the next part. And as always, if you have any questions as we go, feel free to drop them in the chat. An LDOE staff member is monitoring those and we will answer them as we go.
The next part of our agenda will explore the collaborative unit planning protocols using ELA Guidebooks 3.5 2022 units. There are two types of collaborative planning meetings teachers participate in: lesson planning and data analysis. Both types of planning are equally important and should occur as often as possible. When you are lesson planning, you are unpacking the knowledge and skills of the unit, section, and lessons, reviewing embedded supports, creating teacher exemplars, reviewing the text, reviewing upcoming assessments, and adding any additional supports, guiding questions your unique student populations can benefit from. When you are analyzing data, you are reviewing exemplars, creating success criteria, reviewing student samples, identifying learning opportunities, previewing upcoming lessons, and identifying supports for accelerated learning. The innovative design of ELA Guidebooks 3.5 2022 supports teachers in collaborative planning by starting with the end in mind using the unit study tool. You will need access to an updated evaluation plan during this session. During collaborative planning meetings, teachers use the knowledge of the evaluation plan to internalize lessons and plan for data collection. The evaluation plan is linked in part 1 of your participant guide. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drop those participant guides. Oh, thank you, Tara. The participant guides are dropped one more time. If you are focusing on 3rd grade, you click on the 3rd grade link, 4th grade link, or 5th grade link. You just need access to one of those for this session. If you have any trouble accessing those participant guides at any point, please just let us know in the chat and we will try to troubleshoot as soon as possible. Can you go back one slide, please? Thank you. To maintain the integrity of the backwards design model, teachers use the following steps when unpacking a new unit to teach. Step 1 ensures that teachers start unpacking with the end in mind. The ELA Guidebooks instructional approaches include reading, discussing, presenting, and writing. Teachers look for connections to these approaches as they unpack the unit. Teachers will need access to the unit overview and the evaluation plan to complete this step. Step 2 reminds teachers to keep the text at the center. Before teaching the unit, teachers read through the text and excerpts that are included. As they read, they determine the big ideas and connections to the culminating task. Teachers annotate the text to indicate where more support may be needed. For example, adding in guiding questions or vocabulary supports, teachers will need access to those text lists identified in each unit. Step 3 traces high leverage knowledge and skills through assessment. During this step, teachers write exemplars for each section diagnostic and the culminating task. Teachers determine the knowledge and skills the students should know in order to respond to the section diagnostic. These knowledge and skill look-fors should be considered high leverage and serve as the foundation for instructional decision-making. So we're going to have you guys participate in some breakout rooms. You're going to take about 15 minutes to collaboratively complete the first 3 steps of the unit study protocol in part 1 of your participant guide. A staff member from the LDOE will also be in your room to answer any questions you may have. So again, the links are going to be dropped into the chat for Because of Winn-Dixie, the Whipping Boy, and the Birch Bark House participant guides. And you guys will be using part 1 of that participant guide to participate in these breakout rooms. Please join the room that you are wanting to focus in on. All right, I'm just going to wait for participants to join back to our main session, and we'll continue on.
While we're waiting for everyone to come back, I just linked the overview document in the chat as well. As I was popping in and out of some of the breakout rooms, there were some questions about this document. So that is linked for you in the chat as well. If you'd like to look at an overview of all the units, that will be out at the end of April.
All right, it looks like everyone has made their way back. So now that you guys have had a time to look at that tool and think through how you could participate collaboratively with your colleagues, what do collaborative meetings look like on your campus? And also, I want you to think about how can this unit study tool improve that collaborative process. So go ahead and add to the chat your thinking. Think through what those collaborative meetings look like right now on your campus, and how can this unit study tool enhance those conversations? I'm looking for a brave soul to go ahead and share out. How could you use this unit study tool to help your collaborative process? Perfect, thank you. Yes, the PLCs that require teachers to utilize that backwards design. This tool does focus on teachers being able to look at that end in mind, keep it at the forefront, and then work through those knowledge and skills for the task. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Johnson. Definitely could be the objective set in the meeting so everyone stays on task. Good deal. It's very similar to this process. Thank you. Thank you guys for sharing. Yeah, so this tool could easily be incorporated to guide any conversations as well as focus those PLCs that you guys have. There is a question in the hub. Are we going to be using the curriculum hub for these new unit designs or LearnZillion? So Michelle, LearnZillion is working on getting the updates on their platform. They won't be available for next school year, but they are in the process of getting it on their platform. So if you are implementing these updates, you will have to get this information from the Louisiana Curriculum Hub. Yes, yes, so it does focus the meeting as well. Thank you guys for sharing. So before we move on to the next part of our agenda, do you guys have any questions about the study tools that we've looked at?
Hey, Allie, I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding what you just said about LearnZillion.
Okay.
What were you saying is not going to be updated for next school year on LearnZillion's end?
If we have not gotten an updated timeline right now for if it will be updated. So at this time, it's not going to be available.
So the only thing that LearnZillion will have will be the 2018 versions for 3 through 5?
As of right now, yes, they are working on updating it, but we don't have an updated timeline on exactly when it'll be available. All right. Well, we're continuing to monitor the chat. If you think of any questions, please drop it in the chat and we will be happy to answer those for you. We'll also have more opportunities for questions later on in the session.
All right, can you go to the next one, please? All right, so in this first part of our session, we focused on preparing to teach a unit and using the unit study tool as part of that process. So this next part of our agenda will explore the collaborative lesson planning protocols using ELA guidebooks. So we're going to be filtering down to the lesson level after looking at the unit as a whole. So now that we've had taken time to unpack a unit, you would now practice unpacking lessons. You'll be able to use a lot of the information that you already went through for the unit unpacking, but now we're filtering the information down to the lesson level in order to plan for daily instruction. So we're kind of doing a very micro version of this. On your school campuses, you would do that unit part first, and then before teaching lessons, you would go back to the lesson study protocol that we're about to look at. The unit section diagnostics assist teachers in determining how prepared the students are to complete the culminating task. To maintain the integrity of the backwards design model, collaborative planning meetings should use the following steps when unpacking each section included in the unit they are using for instruction. First, when you're planning collaboratively each week, you want to start by reviewing the completed unit study tool. So the study tool we just looked at in the previous session. Use the information you unpacked today to drive your weekly lesson planning. Next, step 2 includes annotating lessons to support all students. Read through this list to see what type of annotations will help you to plan to support all students. You may note the purpose of each activity in question, create exemplars, identify areas that may cause misconceptions, develop additional questions, adjust timing, adjust class groupings, identify which optional activities to use, and to determine if any additional small group targeted support is needed. Lastly, after you've determined what will be included in your lesson, it's time to look at the materials. The materials should be identified and prepared beforehand. For example, a procedure and explicit instructions for distribution or implementation of materials are decided, and teachers prepare anchor charts and technology as needed. So now that you've had some time to work collaboratively to unpack a unit, we'll take some time to collaboratively unpack a lesson. When you return to your grade level breakout rooms, you'll have about 10 minutes to complete part 2 of your participant guide. All of the materials that you are going to need are linked in part 2 of your participant guide, and a member of the LDOE staff will join your breakout room to answer any questions that you may have. So if you notice in part 2 of your lesson annotations, there will be a link to lesson 1 of the unit that you're working on, and there are a section for you to fill out the student look-fors, and then identifying what knowledge and skills students will need in order to be successful in that lesson. You can do as many lessons as you can get through in that 10 minutes. And as you're working, think about what this can look like on your school campus. Any questions before I open the breakout rooms? All right, I will let y'all get back to it.
If you just joined the session and you don't have a breakout room assigned, if you would just drop in the chat which grade level, whether it's 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade you would like to work with, we'll send you to that group.
All right, y'all, we're going to wait for everyone to make it back from our rooms. And as we're waiting for everyone to come back, I just wanted to kind of explain, because there were some questions about like, what tool are we supposed to be using? So we made a participant guide for you guys today so that all of the information you would need would be housed in one place. So you weren't having to go from tool to tool to tool, because we know at a normal teacher collaboration meeting, you would probably start first with that unit study tool. And then maybe a week later, you'd be looking specifically at those lesson study tools. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom of your participant guide, we have linked for you all of the tools that you'll use today to make copies of if you'd like to use them on your campus collaborative meetings. So that was a question that came up, like, this tool, we basically combined all the tools into one in your participant guide so that you're not having to go from place to place to place. So if we wouldn't mind thinking about what you just did in the chat, or if I have a brave soul that's willing to come off of mute. I know it's Friday afternoon and this is like the last thing you want to do, but we do love learning from one another. If y'all could say either, how are you currently internalizing lessons during your planning? And then, or how could this lesson study tool improve your lesson internalization during collaborative planning? So feel free to put those in the chat and I'll read them out. Or if you want to come off mute so that we can hear someone else's voice but mine, that would be great. I see someone said that this will help teachers in annotating with a purpose. That's very important to know. And in a minute, we're going to do some like this data analysis part and how teachers can use that data to also improve with that annotation. And I see that Elke says that the current protocol they use involves digging into the text to determine their role, which is very similar to this unit study protocol. It also guides teachers to look at sections and lessons at a deeper level. So really digging in deep there. Heather says it's helpful. This tool is helpful as a graphic organizer. Unpacking is often done on chart paper or note paper. So this gives you some clarity and it definitely gives you something to go back to as you're working and throughout. So this definitely can help with that process. Thank you guys all for your participation in that section. And we know that this is on a time frame that's probably not that, you can't get through all of this in 10 to 15 minutes, but we wanted y'all to be able to participate in a little bit of it so that you could see how this could be transferred to your schools. So we'll take a section. If anybody has some questions, this would be a great time. We can stop and pause. If you would like to unmute and ask your question, and so Christine asked if we have an exemplar of annotations for a lesson. We do. That was shared in one of our other sessions. So in a moment when y'all get to working again, I will go and dig for that resource and I can share that with you as well. Great question. The participation guide, let me copy that for you. So that is the guide that we've been using throughout this session. So this is what y'all have been using throughout. And then at the bottom of that guide, oh, thank you, Allie. At the bottom of that guide is where you'll see the links to all of the tools that we've been using for you to use on your own campus. All right, if there aren't any other questions, we will move on to the last part of our session.
So the next part of our agenda will explore the collaborative data analysis protocols using ELA Guidebooks 3 through 5, 2022 units. So we're going to review some tools that will help teachers plan to support diverse learners. Reference guides can be located on the Louisiana Curriculum Hub under Materials, while the Planning to Support Diverse Learners protocol, data collection tool, and supports flowchart can be found on the Louisiana Believes website. So let's go ahead and look at the Diverse Learners Guiding Questions document first. I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat as well. So this document just guides you through thinking about your diverse learners and how to support them. So you'll see that step 1, you would review your data. Step 2, preview that upcoming information. Step 3, identify the supports. Step 4, use tools and resources that are included in the units. And step 5, that'll hopefully get you that plan of action to be able to support your students once you've gone through that entire process. Next, let's go ahead and dig into that data collection tool. And I'm going to drop that in the chat as well. So this is a data collection tool that you would use to analyze your student data from the section diagnostics. So the first part of this tool is working through that exemplar. So taking a moment to look at the section diagnostic and write what you expect your students to respond with, whether it is orally or written. So you want to think through those knowledge and skills that you're expecting your students to go through to help you start thinking through exactly what types of support your students may need. Next, you're going to start looking at the knowledge look-fors. You're going to think through all of your samples, and you're going to start deciding how successful each sample was with the knowledge look-fors. Once you've filled in these boxes of the samples that you are looking through, you're individualizing and personalizing groups for your students to meet their individualized needs for the knowledge-based look-fors. Then you'd go through that exact same process with a skills mindset. So where are your students at in this particular section diagnostic from a skills standpoint? And again, you're going to end up with those personalized groups to accelerate those learning opportunities for that group of students. So once you have all of that information, you've looked through your knowledge look-fors and your skill look-fors, and you have all of your data from your students, you're able to categorize these in areas of strength and then opportunities for growth. Once you have those groups of students decided on the growth they need, you'd be able to determine your plan to address those diverse learners in your group. So when planning to support diverse learners, you're going to first need to fill in the data collection tool for one of those embedded assessments or section diagnostics. You will summarize this data to identify common areas of strength and accelerated learning opportunities. Then you categorize those samples based on the needs of the knowledge and skills identified. Now that you have reviewed section 1 of your unit, let's take a look at some data from a class for the section 1 diagnostic that a teacher collected using the section diagnostic data collection tool. This teacher used the individual student section diagnostic checklist to compile the data for the entire class. Using this data, complete the data summary portion of the data collection tool collaboratively in your breakout room. After about 10 minutes, be prepared to share your findings with the group. So you're going to join those same breakout rooms that you were in, and you'll find the data on your participant guide.